In today's video we're going to be making ourselves this Lion King musical promotional poster. And it's pretty easy as well. All we need to do is get a bunch of simple shapes, combine them together to make this cool line picture, and put a bit of text down the right hand side. The background isn't too hard to do either, so let's pop on over to Illustrator and we'll get started on making this poster. In Illustrator, make yourself a new document up. I'm going to start with the name Lion King Poster. Choose a print profile with one artboard. Size will be A4, orientation will be landscape, and your bleed will be 3mm. I'll tell you a little bit more about the bleed in just a moment. In your advanced section, make sure your color mode is set to CMYK and you've got high quality resolution, so 300 pixels per inch, and we'll click on OK. You'll get your white artboard up on the page. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is put a background color into our document, and we do that by picking up our rectangle tool. From our fill color box up the top, we'll choose our darkest green in that panel, and we're going to turn our stroke off, so no border around this shape. We're going to start right on the corner of that bleed line up in the top left corner and drag all the way out to the bottom right corner. Okay. So that's how our background is going to look to start with. Just quickly on this bleed line here, what we've got is a black line around our document, which is the trim line. So when we send this work off to the printers and they're going to cut our poster out, the machine will cut along that black line. But sometimes that machine misses that black line, only by a little bit. So what we do is cater for a little bit of room for error, and we just extend our artwork over that trim line and we go out to what's known as the bleed line, so 3mm over the trim line. And it just gives us that little bit of room for error in case the cutting machine misses that trim line and just goes outside of it a little bit. We've still got ink over that trim line, so you won't be able to tell if the cutting machine does miss that line. Alrighty, so that's why we have a bleed in our documents. Now to keep doing this background, what I'm going to do is grab my black arrow and just select my green background, go up to Edit and Copy, and then Edit, Paste in Front. So we've got two rectangles on top of each other now. I've got the original and the new one that I just pasted on top of that. Just select that top rectangle, and the color you want to change that to is actually this little pattern. It's called the foliage pattern. And when you click on it, it will go like this. So you can still see the dark green background behind the foliage, but this foliage here, a little bit too bright for my liking. So what I'm going to do, just to finish it off, the opacity at the top of the page here, you do need to have this selected before you can change the opacity. Just bring that lever down to about 20 to 25%. I'm going to go to about 20%. And that just fades out our foliage pattern. And we can see a bit more of that darker green background shining through from beneath it. Okay, and we can now put our text and our picture on top of this background, and it's not too distracting at all. So let's start making our line up. Okay, this picture, I'll show you it again. This is the picture we want to start making. Okay, so we'll start with his face and get that all sorted, and then we can worry about this crazy mane he's got going on around the outside of him. Okay, so to start with, you need your rectangle tool again, and just make sure you, before we do that, just grab your black arrow and click off the artboard there. Make sure nothing's selected. Now that you've got your rectangle tool back, you need to pick a sort of dark orangey color. Okay, so play around until you get a darkish orange, and then just draw a rectangle on your page like so. Roughly that size. You can always change it later if we need to. Okay, this is going to be the main part of the face for the line. What I'm going to do next is simply grab the rectangle tool again. I'm going to hold Control, which will change my cursor to the black arrow. I'm just going to click out in the grey area off to the side so I've got nothing selected. And I'm going to grab a dark brown. So we've got one of them in our swatches panel here, which I'll use. I'm just going to hover around the corner, and I'm going to stretch across and draw a brown strip across the top of the line's head, like so. Something like that. Okay, then I'm going to grab my rectangle tool again, make sure nothing's selected, and you need to choose a dark red color. Next, that's pretty good. I'm going to find the center point. There it is, just there. And I'm going to hold Alt and just drag down. It's going to just drag out this red rectangle which goes in the middle. Just move it around till you get it in the middle. And you probably want it to go down to about there. So that's what we've got at the moment. At the bottom of this red thing, we're going to grab our rectangle tool again. The colour he wants that dark brown again. And we're just going to add a little bit on the end of his nose here. Okay, so let's have a look at that. That's how our line's face is looking at the moment. Next thing we'll do is add some eyes in, so let's change our shape now. So hold your mouse down on the rectangle tool and select the ellipse. What we're going to do now is select a really light yellow colour for the fill colour. So I'll just pick that from my colour box up the top here. I'm going to hold shift and drag out a circle which is about that size there. Okay, it looks good. Inside of that we want to draw a second circle just a bit smaller for the pupil of the eye. So I'm going to hold control and click off in the grey area out here first. And then I'm going to grab my ellipse tool again. I'm going to select that same dark brown I've been using already and just shift and draw it out till it hits the edge of the eyeball. Okay, so it'll look something like that. You can then grab your black arrow and click on both those circles while holding shift just to select them both. And you can copy them and you can paste them, and you can just drag it up and put it on the other side pretty much in the exact same position, so it looks like he's looking out to the right hand side of the page. Okay. Still going now, we'll grab our polygon tool this time, so hold your mouse down on that ellipse there and go down and get the polygon, and we want to draw some triangles. So what we do is just click once on the page and make sure that our sides is set to 3. So our 3-sided polygon will end up being a triangle looking like this. Now what we want to do is choose like a light orangey yellow colour. I think that one there in the swatches panel looks good. Using my black arrow, I'll just hold shift and rotate that around so it's pointing down. I'll make it a little bit smaller too. Oops. This is going to go just below the eye. So about there, looks pretty good. Okay, while that's still selected, I'm going to hold the Alt key and simply drag straight down. You can hold Shift if you like, and we just want them touching ever so slightly, those two triangles, like so. We're going to get this little pattern below his eyes. I'm going to highlight both of those. You can either hold Alt and drag off them to duplicate it, or you can go to copy and paste. It's up to you. There's the center, about there's the center, so we've got them perfectly in line now. Okay, still going. We're going to grab the line tool this time, and we're going to make sure that we've got no fill color and our stroke color is that brown color, that dark brown we've been using. What we're going to do is just add a little bit more to the nose and then the mouth. So I'm going to just drag down from the middle there. I might turn my size up to about size 3 point as well, so that little brown line's a bit thicker. Once you've drawn that one, I'm going to hover around that middle point and hold Alt and just simply drag out. You can hold Shift if you want to keep it straight, which is a good idea. We'll go to about there. That gives him a little mouth. It's looking good. We'll draw some whiskers on him now as well, so grabbing the line tool one more time, we'll start them just over here. Just hold Shift when you draw the whiskers. Make sure that they're 3 point and they're that brown colour still. Once you've drawn one, you can copy and paste it, or you can hold Alt and drag off it. I'm just going to paste in front and use my arrow keys to nudge it down a few spaces. I'll copy that one by pressing Ctrl C, paste it in front, use my arrow keys to nudge it down a little bit. Okay, let's see how that's looking. Not too bad, they're a little bit spaced out, so I might just move them back up together a bit more. Oops. Pressing the wrong buttons here, we'll just undo that. Try that again. Yeah, it's not too bad. I guess you could space them out a little bit more if you really wanted to. Once you've got 3 whiskers there though, that's good enough. I'm just going to hold Shift and click on them all, copy them, and paste them in front again. Then I'm just going to hold Shift and press my left arrow, which will nudge them across. Going to get them in roughly the same position on the other side. So We're looking something like that. Probably a little bit off they are. I'll just move them a little bit more. Arrow keys to nudge it. That'll do. Okay, so the face is looking pretty good. Put some ears on him now. So to put ears on, we need the ellipse tool. Now the colour we want for the ellipse, no stroke. And the fill colour is going to be this orangey kind of colour. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. Here we can press the letter I to pick it up quickly and just click on that orange colour. And that will automatically go into our fill colour. So using the ellipse, I'm just going to draw an ellipse up the top here. It doesn't have to be perfect right away because you're going to use your black arrow to rotate it and resize it as you need to. You probably need to make it go a bit more upright. Something like that. And then I'm just going to hold Alt after I've clicked on it, drag a second copy over the other side, give it a shift and rotate, and just move it down into position. Okay, so I think that's close enough. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to go to my layers panel now. Okay, over here. If you can't see your layers panel over the side, which I can't at the moment, I'm going to have to go to my window menu and select layers, or press F7 to bring them up. As I expand my layers, I can see all the bits and pieces that make up my document. I simply want to go to the bottom, lock the background layer, which is the green rectangle, and the other one is that foliage artwork. So I'm going to lock those two layers. And I'll just hide my layers box again. That way I can move stuff around and not affect the background. So I'm going to highlight this face now and go up to Object and group it all together. So click Group or Control G, and you can move it down a bit and move it around as you need to. So the next thing I'm going to do is put this big mane around his head here. So to do the mane around his head, I'm just going to quickly hold Shift and just resize his whole head just a little bit, make it a bit smaller. Say about that size. Actually, maybe even a bit smaller. And to do the mane, we're going to grab the ellipse tool. Okay, just hold Control and click off the artboard for a minute, because what we're going to do is choose a colour for our mane, and we want it to be like a light yellow colour. You can actually hold Shift and click on this colour box at the top, and that will bring up your levers, and you can play around until you get a nice light yellow that you like the looks of. I'm going to go at 50% yellow and zeros for the other levers. Then you just simply hold Shift, click and drag a big circle over the top of him. Okay, using the arrow, I'll just nudge it across a bit. And in my layers panel again, so F7 to bring up your layers if you haven't got them up, or you can go to your window menu and choose layers. What we're going to do is bring this path here, which is this mane, below the grouped objects. Okay, so that puts our mane in the background. Just make sure it's in a good spot, pretty much in the center of that shape as well. Okay, it tells me it's roughly the center. I think I might need to make it a little bit bigger. So I'll hold Shift and Alt. Let's move him up a bit. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered, but a bit bigger than the head of the line will be good. So with the mane there selected, let's go up to your effect menu, go down to distort and transform, and then zigzag. I'm going to put a zigzag effect on this. So actually preview it. Set your ridges per segment to about 8 or 9, probably 9 or 10, and the size up around the 12 mark I think will look good. Okay, so click on OK, and we've got our mane there. Next thing I'm going to do with the mane there is just grab the rotate tool, press enter, rotate it 10 degrees and click copy. Okay, so now we've got two manes on our page. We're going to change the colour of one of them. One of them is going to be a light orangey colour. Okay, so we'll try that one. Yeah, that's not too bad. I might actually make the darker one on the outside, so I'm just going to go to my layers here and just switch those around. So what do we got? We'll put the darker one behind. There we go, that's a bit better. Okay, this light one probably made a bit smaller too, so I'm going to hold Shift and Shift and Alt and just bring it in a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll just hide my layers again. If you want, you can click on the darker yellow on the outside there, and hold Shift and Alt and just make it a bit bigger as well. Just move it around until you're happy with how it looks, and I think it should look something like that once you've got the head done. So just going to highlight everything there, Control G to group it all, and just make it a wee bit smaller. So click on it, hold Shift, a little bit smaller, and just move it up off to the side for the time being. Next thing I want to do is just add a body and a little bit of a goatee, I suppose, to this line. So we're going to grab our ellipse tool again, and the colour we want is that dark red colour. Okay, so I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool to click on the red there. I've got that selected, and I'm going to choose a polygon tool, click once on the page, put in another triangle, so a three-sided shape. You'll get this shape here. Using your black arrow, just give it a rotate around so it's pointing down, and put it right on the bottom of his chin in the center. So let's see, probably about there is where we're going to put it. So that doesn't look too bad. If you want to stretch it out a little bit, feel free. Something like that. That's cool. And the body is just another triangle. So this time the color, choose a dark orange. We'll see how it looks. Actually, I might just choose the color that we've already used on the ears and the face. So I'm going to grab polygon tool, click once, it's three-sided, click OK, and you're simply going to make this nice and big with your black arrow. Scale it up. It's going to go out to our bleed line and finish about there. And in our layers panel one last time, so let's bring up the layers, window layers, just move this path, which is the orange triangle, down below some of the other stuff. Oh, not that green stuff, there we go. So it goes behind the line's head now, and you can even use your white arrow to grab the edges here. Just drag it in a bit, because it is a pretty wide body at the moment. He does look a bit overweight, so use your white arrows, click on the corners and then drag them in a bit. That's it. So I'll move that across a little bit into the center, and then we'll press Control 0 just to, I'll just click out here first. Just having a bit of lag, there we go. Control 0 will just go back to 100% full screen. You can see how it's looking so far, and that's our line pretty much done. Looking really good. Background's done. Just got some simple text to throw over this side. So using your text tool, choose a light yellow color. I'm going to go this one over here, and draw yourself a text box across the page there. In capital letters, you're just going to write the Lion King. Highlight it all. I'm going to stick with Myriad Pro as my font and just choose bold. Make the size, I'll try size, we'll go all the way up to size 72 and see how that's looking. Yeah, it's not bad. Using your black arrow, you can move that around if you want. Obviously that colour didn't work like it was meant to, so we'll just go and grab that yellowish colour again. Once we put it into, go up to your effect menu at the top, and we're just going to put a stylize effect on it and choose drop shadow. Preview it if you'd like, but I think the default settings look pretty good, so just click on OK. Alrighty, once you've got that in, I'm going to put some red underlines underneath the name, so grab your line tool. It's going to click Control and click off all things for a moment. I'll grab a dark red for this underline and just basically Shift, draw an underline under the. Okay, that didn't work, so I'll just have to change the colour again to red. Make it about 3 point. And you've got a nice red line here below the. Okay, you can copy that and paste it in front, and just use your arrow keys while holding Shift to nudge it down a bit. And same again, you can go up to copy and then paste in front, and then Shift and arrow keys to bring it down. So it's perfectly in line with the other ones. So eventually you're going to have a little heading looking like that. The Lion King with red underlines. Down a little bit further, we just got some dates and time, the time, the date, the venue, and all that sort of stuff for the musical. So draw yourself a big text box. Okay, you can resize it in just a moment. At the moment we're in Myriad Pro, bold and size 72, which is a bit silly, so we'll drop it down to size 24 to start with. We'll drop it back to a regular for our style. Let's write in Brisbane Entertainment Centre, March 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Book now at Ticket Tech 1-800-555-787 www.wineking.com. So that's all the text you need. Once you've got it all written in, just highlight it. What we'll do, we'll change the colour first of all, just to a slightly different yellow colour than what we had. We might even go a light orange colour. We're going to put in some tracking. So up here, some leading, it's called, up in your character section. You can click on that and get some other options. So leading's basically your line spacing. Okay, so you can find that up here. I go to about 48, a bit too big. We'll try 36. Yeah, that fits it in pretty nicely. Here's my black arrow again. I might resize this text box a bit just so everything fits on one line. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to go up to the effect menu, stylize, and choose the drop shadow again. Preview it if you'd like, just so you can get an idea of how it's going to look. Click OK. Just nudge it across a little bit. I don't want it to go over the line's main. Okay. At the moment, it's still touching a little bit of the line's main there, so I might have to make this text just one size smaller. There we go, size 23, looks like it did it. Still a little bit bunched up over here. I'm going to see if I can put some more leading in, just to try and space it out. So in that character menu, just turn the leading up a bit. Okay, my computer is lagging a bit, but probably up around the 40 odd mark, it will look pretty good. Okay, so if I grab my black arrow and just click off things, I can nudge it around a bit until I get happy. Okay, my computer is struggling, must be running out of memory. That's basically it though. So we've got our finished poster. If you want to add some little legs to this line, I'm sure you could quite easily with just a few lines. Text, pretty easy to see. We've kept a consistent colour scheme going on throughout here. All these yellows used over here in the line have been used again over in the text. Same with the red. Okay, so that's a pretty good looking poster. When you're done, make sure you go to File, Save As, and save it as an AI file. You may also like to have it ready for print, so you can go to File and you can export it. Okay, I'll just show you what comes up when you can export it. You can choose what file type you want to export it as. Okay, so there's a few options there. The other way to get it ready for print is go to File, just Save As like usual, but you'll change it to an Adobe PDF. Okay, and from there you can play around with some settings to try and get it all print ready. Okay, there's the box that comes up, and you can choose what sort of settings you want, whether you want to compress it down, whether you want to have marks and bleeds. Usually you'll put on trim marks when you send it off to the printers. Okay, and you'll use the document bleed settings of 3mm. If you do those two things, the printer is generally happy. The other thing is just making sure you've got 300 pixels per inch for your resolution, which I think we do. Okay, we're not going to downsample any pictures. Okay, so then you just click Save PDF and that would save it. So that's how you make yourself a cool looking poster.